Thick armor, a powerful gun, very heavy weight, and slow speed. These tanks have a lot in common, yet at the same time, they are so different. Today, we will examine the British A39 Tortoise and the American T95, find out exactly how the T95 differs from the T28, and also discuss the Maus, which fits perfectly into the company of these heavy vehicles that arrived too late for the battlefields of World War II. The development of the British A39 Tortoise heavy assault tank began in early 1943. The Allied command understood that to break through heavy German fortifications, a specialized vehicle would be required, one capable of withstanding direct hits from heavy guns and able to fight off enemy infantry and tanks. The task was assigned to Nuffield Mechanizations in Aero. The engineers developed a series of 18 concepts under the AT Index, the last of which was the AT-16. This specific design was officially designated as the A39 Tortoise. Structurally, the Tortoise was not a conventional tank, as it lacked a rotating turret. It was a self-propelled gun with a casemate design. The vehicle's protection consisted of a cast superstructure with a maximum frontal armor thickness of 228 millimeters, or about 9 inches. This design provided excellent protection for the crew, which was the main priority, but it led to a significant increase in mass. The combat weight of the tank reached 79 tons. Operating this vehicle required a crew of 7, a commander, a driver, a co-driver, a main gunner, and 3 loaders. The main armament was the 94mm, or 3.7-inch, Ordnance QF 32-pounder gun, developed from a British anti-aircraft gun. It used separate loading ammunition, which explains the need for multiple loaders in the crew. The gun demonstrated high effectiveness during trials and could engage enemy armor at long distances. Secondary armament consisted of 3 7.92mm Besa machine guns. One was located in a ball mount to the left of the main gun, and 2 more were installed in a small, independently rotating turret on the roof of the casemate. This heavy vehicle was powered by an adapted version of the Rolls-Royce Meteor V12 aviation petrol engine. It produced 600 horsepower. Given the weight of 79 tons, this power output was insufficient for high mobility. The maximum speed of the A39 on paved roads was only 19 kilometers, or about 12 miles per hour, and it dropped even further on rough terrain. In 1944, the British Ministry of Supply ordered 25 units of the A39 Tortoise, but the war ended before the tanks could enter mass production. The order was reduced, and between 1945 and 1947, only 6 prototypes were built. None of them saw combat. In the spring of 1948, one of the vehicles was sent to Germany for mobility and firing trials. The Tortoise demonstrated high suspension reliability and excellent gun accuracy, but it proved to be far too heavy for the existing logistical infrastructure. Most bridges simply could not support its weight, and transporting it by rail required specialized flat cars. In my personal opinion, if the A39 Tortoise had managed to reach the battlefield in 1945, its impact would have been very mixed. On the one hand, its 94mm gun and 228mm armor would have allowed it to confidently destroy any German armor at long distances, while remaining practically invulnerable to return fire. That is, except for enemy aircraft and artillery, which would have posed the primary threat. But on the other hand, its extremely low speed and massive weight would have made it a hostage to logistics. It would have been almost impossible to move this tank across rivers on pontoon bridges, or to recover it in the event of a breakdown or a broken track. It would have served as an excellent stationary firing point, but it is highly unlikely that it could have kept up with the pace of Allied offensive operations. Across the Atlantic, American engineers faced the exact same problem as the British. To break through the fortifications of the Siegfried Line, and later for the possible invasion of the Japanese home islands, the U.S. Army needed a vehicle with unprecedented frontal protection. The development program began in the spring of 1945. Right away, it is worth answering a popular question. Exactly how does the T95 differ from the T28? The answer is incredibly simple. It doesn't. They are the exact same vehicle. Initially, in 1945, the project was designated Heavy Tank T28. Because the vehicle lacked a rotating turret, it was reclassified later that year as a self-propelled gun, and its designation was changed to 105mm gun motor carriage T95. Then, in 1946, the American command changed the nomenclature again, reverting the name to Super Heavy Tank T28. There were no structural differences between these designations, it was merely a bureaucratic technicality. Like the British Tortoise, the American T95 featured a casemate design. The main feature of the vehicle was its armor. The thickness of the frontal cast superstructure was an incredible 305 millimeters, or 12 inches. The side armor reached 133 millimeters, or about 5.2 inches. This made the tank virtually invulnerable to any anti-tank weapon of the time in a frontal engagement. But this protection came at a massive cost in weight. The combat mass of the vehicle reached 86 metric tons, or about 95 US tons. To reduce ground pressure, engineers implemented a unique suspension system with 4 sets of tracks, 2 on each side, for transporting the tank by rail or on narrow roads. The outer set of tracks could be removed, locked together, and towed behind the vehicle. According to the designers of this system, this was supposed to be a relatively quick process, but I personally doubt the crew would have found it as easy to do as the engineers had planned. The main armament of the vehicle was the 105mm or 4.1-inch T5E1 gun. It had excellent ballistic characteristics and was capable of penetrating thick concrete bunkers or the frontal armor of any German tank. Unlike the British Tortoise, the crew of the T95 consisted of only 4 people: a commander, a driver, a gunner, and a single loader. Secondary armament was minimal. A single 12.7mm or 50 caliber M2 Browning anti-aircraft machine gun mounted on a ring turret above the commander's hatch. Powering these 86 metric tons was a Ford GAF V8 gasoline engine producing 500 horsepower. This was the exact same engine installed in the Sherman medium tanks, which weighed a third as much. As a result, the mobility of the T95 was critically low. Its maximum highway speed did not exceed 13 kilometers, or 8 miles per hour. It's hard to imagine how it would have driven on dirt after a rainstorm. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Production started too late. Initially, 25 vehicles were planned, but due to the end of the war, the order was canceled. Between 1945 and 1946, the Pacific Car and Foundry Company built only 2 prototypes. Both underwent trials in the United States until 1947, when one of them was severely damaged by an engine fire and subsequently scrapped. The second prototype eventually remained at the proving grounds and is a museum exhibit today. Ultimately, the Siegfried line proved to be less of a formidable obstacle than anticipated, and Sherman tanks were sufficient for the Japanese home islands. In my opinion, the hypothetical appearance of the T95 in Europe in 1945 would have had the same consequences as the Tortoise, although the A39's participation in the war would probably have been slightly more successful, but essentially, the difference is not that big. Both machines would have been prime targets for the Luftwaffe, and most likely an aircraft would have ended their adventures on the battlefield. Even if the skies could be reliably covered, their maximum speed and weight would have been their ultimate downfall. The German approach to creating a super heavy tank differed drastically from the American or British methods. While the Allies were creating casemate assault guns, Germany developed a traditional tank with a rotating turret, the Panzer VIII Maus. Its development began in 1942 under the direction of Ferdinand Porsche. To this day, the Maus remains the heaviest fully enclosed armored fighting vehicle ever built. Its combat mass was 188 metric tons, or about 207 US tons. This weight was due to its unprecedented armor. The frontal hull armor reached 200 millimeters, or nearly 8 inches, and the turret front was 240 millimeters, or 9.4 inches. The crew consisted of 6 people. The tank's armament featured a dual-caliber design. The main weapon was the 128mm, or 5-inch WW2 gun, capable of destroying any Allied tank at distances of over 3 kilometers. Mounted coaxially next to it in the turret was a 75mm, or 3-inch gun for engaging lightly armored targets, as well as a 7.92mm MG-34 machine gun. To move this vehicle, a complex hybrid propulsion system was used. An internal combustion engine, a petrol engine on the first prototype, and a 1,200 horsepower diesel engine on the second, powered an electrical generator, which in turn drove the electric motors. The maximum highway speed was only 20 kilometers, or 12 miles per hour. In total, only 2 prototypes were built, one without a turret and one fully complete. They underwent trials in late 1944. Neither vehicle saw combat. Due to the approach of Soviet troops in the spring of 1945, the Germans blew up the second prototype. Later, Soviet engineers assembled one vehicle from the 2 damaged hulls, which is now located in a museum in Kubinka. If we imagine the Maus on the battlefield, its fate would have been even more dismal than that of the Tortoise or the T95. The vehicle could not cross a single European bridge. Rivers had to be forded along the bottom using electrical cables connected to another Maus. Its colossal weight and the poor reliability of its hybrid transmission meant that the Maus would most likely have broken down on its own during a march, or been destroyed by Allied aircraft, without ever firing a single shot at enemy tanks. These three super heavy vehicles represented the absolute limit of World War II engineering. However, they all shared the exact same fate. They turned out to be too heavy, too slow, and arrived way too late to have any impact on the course of the war. Please don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. It takes just a second, but it means a lot to me. If you want to support my work even further, consider hitting the join button to become a channel member. It truly helps me keep creating new content. And be sure to let me know in the comments, if you had to become a crew member in one of these machines, and refusing was simply not an option, which one would you choose? The Tortoise, the T95, or maybe the Maus? Personally, I would be choosing between the first two.